Hello, friends. Mike Zuber here, one rental at a time. And I actually put something on Instagram and Facebook over the weekend where I wanted to tease this video. And this video is going to be about my keys to, building a real estate portfolio that produces over $100,000 each and every month in gross rents. I don't generally talk about specifics. I don't generally think it's, you know, um, paints a good picture of the person talking about it. But I see a lot of social media folks kind of saying, hey, I made, $3,000 passive income this month and, all of those things. So I kind of took that idea and I put my own spin on it. I want to talk about what it takes, how to get to some impressive, some big numbers. But before I do that, I want to say a couple of things. First, I'm not sure how to deliver content like this. So in this example, I'm going to speak to the camera. I have my list of items, but I am curious, would you rather have content like this, think top 10 list in a PowerPoint, where maybe I'm off in the corner talking and you're looking at a PowerPoint slide? Or are you comfortable with just this communication? So do me a favor, just say PowerPoint or speaking style. I'm comfortable doing either. I just don't know what you prefer. So please tell me what you prefer. Second, I don't think creating a portfolio that grosses $100,000 or more is or should be anyone's goal. I think you can retire a lot earlier than that. While the number's impressive, who's to say staying small is not the right answer? And I don't share this story to pat ourselves on the back or do anything of that nature, right? If you've read our book, I gave you the full laundry list of what we own in the book, and it doesn't take, a math whiz to figure out, hey, he's got 175 units or more. You divide that by 100 grand, that's an average rent of 571. So if my rents are average more than that, it's easy math, right? So I figured it was kind of already out there, hence I should sort of talk about it. But let's just say my average rents are significantly more than 571. So with that said, this video is about going to $100,000 or more in gross rents. And what I'm going to do is give you each point and then probably a little bit of color on them. And actually, I was going to do a top 10, but I created 11, so you get a bonus. So first and foremost, in no particular order, it's just kind of how it came to me. Reserves matter. I've said this before, right? If you only have a single house, that reserves matter. But it still matters when you have a lot of units. Bad stuff happens in this business. For example, one of our 18-unit buildings that we've owned for over a decade had a small roof leak, right? It was one of those roof leaks that's like an $800 patch, right? Because it was around, I think it was around an AC vent or cover or drain or whatever the heck you guys call that stuff. So it happens all the time, right? We have lots of apartments. So, we approved an expense thinking it was going to be small and would just kind of, move on with our day. But bad things happen. So upon further inspection of the roof, we found termite damage. So as good landlords, we explored further and found that the termite damage was rather extensive. So now we need to tent the apartment building. We need to find housing for at least 48 hours for all of our tenants. And we're looking at a $10,000 to $15,000 repair bill after spending 10 grand, right? On the tenting and then the moving tenants around and all of that. So that apartment building is going to be negative for the month and probably will be negative for half the year. Oh, by the way, we own a lot of other stuff. So we had tenants move out of a house that they'd lived in for 12 years and they had pets. So there's a big repair bill. I think that one's $20,000. And oh, by the way, we have lots of other stuff going on. So realize that just because you have lots of units doesn't give you permission to not have reserves, right? We've had reserves and have been quite comfortable having reserves that we don't touch. We actually keep in a separate bank account that we don't have any electronic transfers between our, the accounts we live on and the accounts we pay bills in. It's kind of just over there, not to be touched, except when bad things happen. So reserves matter, because the only way you can grow a portfolio is if you keep hold of all of them and you don't let the ups and downs of any one month crush you, and force you to fire sell something or not do a repair that causes more damage over and over and over. So again, reserves really, really, really matter. The other thing that may be obvious, but I didn't want to miss, is when you have these many tenants, you need to have processes and procedures in place. You can't afford any one-offs. Frankly, you should have processes and procedures in place early. But when you get to this size, you really can't have one-offs. One-offs will crush you. And also one-offs, when you have these many tenants, will set bad precedents that, if found out or known, can be used against you in an eviction or asking a tenant to leave or something of that nature. You need to make sure that everybody that's in your team, whether you're self-managing or you have your own property or you have property managers, that it's just kind of runs. And the beauty when these are all set in place is you could be anywhere on the world and you're not in your business, right? Being a landlord with these kind of quantities, you could be anywhere and answer a phone call, deal with 30-minute questions here or there, maybe, a phone call Monday, Friday kind of thing, and then do the rest in email. As you'll see later, I have opinions on self-management, but we'll save that for later. So again, you need to have processes and procedures. No zero, unacceptable, no one-offs. Kind of tied in with reserves matter. Number 3 wanted to talk about itself is bad stuff happens, right? We've already talked about a surprise $800 roof leak turning into a $30,000 expense. But bad stuff happens all the time, right? You are in the people business. People lose jobs, business cycles change, people get married, people get divorced, people get drug addicts, drug habits. Bad stuff happens. And again, you need to start to almost become immune to the stories and the activities, because you will now, we've had 10,000 plus tenants over 15 years or so, I'm sure. And we've heard it all, right? It's pretty rare day where we hear a story that we haven't heard a dozen times. So you have to be, you have to realize that bad stuff happens and be okay with it, right? The other thing that's, kind of the flip side that I'll say here is great stuff happens all the time. And frankly, the great stuff far exceeds the bad stuff. But as you've seen with tenants, termites, toilets, trouble, all that stuff, the T's, people talk about the bad stuff, but great stuff happens all the time, right? I've had rent inflation just this year that's added, $5,000 or more a month just with rent inflation. Property values have been going up for 8 years straight. Great to be a landlord. Debt has become cheaper and cheaper. Great, right? So again, there is so much upside in this business that people just fail to talk about. And I don't know why, but you do need to appreciate and be ready for the bad times. And the more you can become even keel, the more success you have, the more you'll stay in the business. Because what I see happen is bad stuff happens. Maybe it happens a couple of times to someone and they stop growing, or worse, they sell. Right. So if you want to grow a portfolio that gets to over 100 grand, you need to stay in the game. And the best way to do that is to stay even keel or numb or whatever that is to the bad stuff. Here's the one on self-management. I don't believe when you get to this size, you can or even should self-manage. I believe what you should be doing is setting up a business that runs without you. For me, that means paying a property manager, getting on a cadence, communication, expectations, all of that. Because if I wanted to go take 3 months off and live in, Asia somewhere with Olivia, we could. You couldn't do that if you were self-managing, right? What are you going to do? Bring in someone for 90 days and they don't know the rules and they're going to hear all the stories for the first time and accept them. And it just doesn't work. I believe if you self-manage at these numbers, it's you have a very low-paying job, frankly. Because it's a job and it's a yucky job. I would not recommend it. Here's one again. I think that's kind of obvious, but in today's social media and instant gratification, I think it might get overlooked. Is growing a portfolio like this takes time, right? It took us all the better part of 12 years, and obviously we went through stages, right? Well, we got $1,000 a month, and then 3,000, and then 6,000. I'm just making up numbers, but you see, you don't just go from 0 to 100. So it takes time, and you need to let the market cycle and these other things that I'll talk about here upcoming help you. you need to pay attention to them. But just appreciate, you just don't wake up and 90 days later you have 100K in gross rents. Now, I know there's some syndicators out there and these other folks that have done, monster apartment buildings that maybe just jump to that level. That's not my experience. That's not what we talk about. We don't pool capital. We don't use other people's money to kind of split, general partnerships with passive. So I guess you can get there if you're just, doing 1,000 unit syndication. But I'd say, do you really own 1,000 units, or is that split between 100 partners, right? So in the end, I'm sharing you with our story and pass no judgment or theory on how other people get there. This is how we did. I will say, to kind of tag along that, the next one is units help. Size does help, right? We started, if you've read the book, just with houses, because that's all we knew. We didn't know any different. But during the peak, right, during the rise in the market, we 1031 exchanged out of all these houses and went from 8 to 80. Our monthly proceeds exploded, right? 8 houses, I don't know, let's say it was 10 grand a month gross. 80 units, probably was over 40 at the time. I don't actually remember, and off the top of my head, I'll just use 40. So again, units help. But you need to get into units, or at least I think, as you get bigger, I think learning with houses, at least it was beneficial for us. I would say jumping into managing apartments without the experience of being a house landlord probably would have caused us to slow down. The other thing you need to realize is managing apartments is not like managing houses. You have more people in smaller space. You have more opportunities for interesting interactions. And, turnover, as I've said in other videos, is much higher, right? I think average tenure on our houses exceeds 8 years, and average tenure on apartments is sub 2. So just plan for that. The other one is an interesting one, is let the IRS be your partner. So what I mean by that is one thing we found is when houses that we invested in became inflated, we chose to exit versus holding on, right? We could have held those 8 houses and still own them today, but I'd still be working. We realized that they were overvalued, or at least inflated. So we did a 1031 exchange, which allowed us to use the benefits of the IRS tax code to not pay capital gains and not pay income tax, and move the entire equity into a bigger like-kind investment. So we took 8 rental houses and got 8 rental apartments, and that was a big deal for us and was a game changer, frankly. So you'll likely have that opportunity as you invest, right? But it takes time, right? That happened to us at kind of year 8 or 9. We paid down debt, value went up, rents went up. This will happen for you too, right? But it won't happen overnight, right? This is a long-term game. I do think trading up for quality or quantity is a good idea. And you'll do this somewhere in the cycle, right? I think owning 4 or 5 houses forever is fine if that's what you want to do. But if you're looking to grow the rental base, there will be a time, right? We typically start with cheaper assets. It's just kind of how most people start. But over time, you'll pay that down. Rent increases will happen. You'll have the opportunity to do a 1031 exchange and either increase the quality. Maybe you go from a house that's renting for $1,100 to a house that's $1,800, right? And you move the equity into the other one. Or maybe you'll do what we did. We went from 8 to 80. I think those are excellent ways to explode growth, right? We went from 10,000 to 40,000 to repeat a number I believe I gave earlier in this video. Let market cycles help you. Real estate investing is not like this, right? It's not flat. So let the ups and downs, or the gentle waves, help you. I believe most of the countries experiencing rental or real estate asset appreciation. I think there's some hot markets that got ahead of itself that will come down. But I think most of the country's affordable housing stock is going to be more expensive in 10 years than it is today. So if that's true, getting in early allows you to invest ahead of that appreciation. Now, obviously, you need to be smart. You can't be investing in cities that are going to go from 1 million people to 10,000 people. You'll just have too many houses. But again, market cycles can be very, very, very helpful. And being active and watching the market and doing your homework that I talk about all the time in my course allows you to understand where you are. And the only reason we got to this number is because of market cycles. We got out near the peak, and then we invested a lot during the trough, and then it's coming out and the other side, and it, life's good. Here's one that I think most people ignore. I believe a lot of landlords focus on the bad or troubled tenants. If you're going to be in this business for the long term, I suggest you spend at least as much time, if not more, taking care of your great tenants. You want the great tenants to stay with you an extra year, an extra 2 years, an extra 3 years. You want your great tenants to bring over their great friends, which in most cases people sort of socialize in the same circles. That doesn't always work, but generally speaking. So spend more time taking care of your great tenants. If they paid you 12 months in a row on time, and their lease is up, and you raised rents last time, don't raise it this time. Give them a break. Raise it next year, right? Every other year is what I like to do for tenants that are paying on time and all of that. So again, and do the little things, right? Maybe they need new linoleum or new tile, or I don't know. Do something to take care of them, because people talk. And if you're known as the landlord who cares and you're taking care of the great tenants, life gets a little bit easier, right? In my experience, 95% of the tenants are great. 2 or 3 need a little coaching, and then 1 or 2% are just problems. And the other thing to note there is somebody could be a great tenant for years and suddenly become a problem. Life happens, people, business, all that stuff. So just realize things can change. And then the next one is, this is the bonus one, and it's kind of been hinted at in the others, but I thought it warranted its own topic, is the more even keel you can be in your business, the longer you're going to stay in, you'll stay active, and you won't let the great days and bad days either make you too euphoric or crush you. So the more even keel you can be, instead of this, maybe it's this. I think the longer you're going to be in, and the better chance you have of getting to 100K a month in gross rent. So again, that's my list of 11. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you think I missed one. Again, let me know if you think this should have been a PowerPoint, right? Maybe every slide could have been one word, or maybe hey, number 1 is this, number 2 is that. I'm still trying to figure out this thing of sharing and giving and helping via YouTube. And I don't know the right vehicle. What would you like this to have been? Is this okay? Or would you rather like a PowerPoint? Let me know. And again, do me a favor, hit subscribe. I would actually love it if you could share this video. I think there's a lot of real estate groups out there, maybe on Facebook and the like, that should see this. I think a lot of people talk a big game, but don't have that 100K a month coming in. And maybe we should share with them why these top 11 things are pretty cool. So hope this helps. Hope you liked what you got. Hope I delivered what I promised over the weekend. And have a great day. Take care.